2025 regular action meeting of the Board of Education of Hinsdale Township High School, District 86. We are meeting in the Hinsdale Central Library. The time is 6:02 p.m. Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Here.
Member Fisher.
Here.
Member Mitha.
Here.
Member Akris.
Here.
Member Leka.
Here.
Member Satchwell. Here. Member Waters.
Here.
May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session for discussion under exemptions 5 ILCS 122C10, the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students, and 5 ILCS 122C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Satchwell, second Fisher. Is there any discussion? Will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Aye.
Member Fisher.
Aye.
Member Mitha.
Aye.
Member Akris.
Aye.
Member Leka.
Aye.
Member Satchwell. Aye. Member Waters.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The board will now adjourn to closed session. The board will take action following closed session as detailed on our agenda.
Deb?
Sorry, I didn't hear
Are we ready?
I'm
The time is 6:30 and the board now reconvenes the open session of the May 29th, 2025 regular action meeting. Please stand if you are able and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
indivisible.
The board will now hear audience comments for up to a total of 45 minutes. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board. Board meetings are meetings of the board held in public, not open forum town hall meetings. Thank you. Board members will not engage the public during public comment. The board will keep this in mind as we conduct our meetings, allowing the public to provide input at the time allotted on the agenda to ensure that multiple voices of the community inform board deliberations. When the board deliberates, it will be a time for the board to listen and learn from each other, taking the public input into consideration, not a time to re-engage with the public. The board will consistently abide by our formal processes relating to this issue so that all persons are treated fairly and equally. Our first speaker is Debbie Leventhal.
Debbie Leventhal, Hinsdale parent. A couple of years ago, one of my older children wrote Mr. Chris Freiler thank you note at the end of the school year. The first draft of the note was 6 pages long. Obviously, we encouraged our student to revise, but I understand the challenge. How can one concisely sum up what an impact Mr. Freiler has had on individual students and our school community as a whole in a greeting card or 3 minutes, but I'll do my best. Dan and I would like to thank Mr. Freiler for providing our children with an outstanding experience in AP European History and Philosophy honors. Hinsdale Central has been fortunate to have Mr. Freiler, and we are blessed that all 3 of our older children had the opportunity to learn from you, a gifted educator. Your passion, ability to foster critical thinking, promote respectful discourse, your modeling of impeccable character, holding students accountable, engaging them in interesting yet challenging content, and instilling good citizenship are beyond compare. It is our sincere hope that the curricular foundation, instructional standard, and exposure to the humanities you have fostered for the past several decades will be around for decades to come. I know I speak for many former students and families in wishing Mr. Freiler the very best of luck. Thank you for your dedication to the students of Hinsdale Central and to the Department of Social Studies. Our entire community has been enriched by your years of teaching at Hinsdale Central. Additionally, congratulations to all of the teachers that are retiring this year, and the best of luck to all of them.
The next speaker is Yvonne Mayer.
Tonight I am here to discuss 2 topics. First, I too want to thank all of the retiring teachers and staff. I wish them well in their future endeavors. It's unfortunate none of them are here tonight. I want to especially thank Chris Freiler, Lisa Korbitz, David Ritter, and Mike Wiggins for having been incredible teachers and a coach to my 4 children, Lucas, Michael, Isabella, and Juliana. They all wish they could be here tonight to thank them personally for making them better students. Since they could not be here, I just want to say on their behalf that these teachers instilled in them the drive, work ethic, and belief in themselves that equipped them to go on to live their best adult lives. Dr. Locke likes to speak about trying to figure out what the district's North Star should be. But what all of the board and community members need to know is that these teachers are what made D86 an amazing place to educate my children. They, the teachers, are truly the shining stars. So I thank them. Now on to my second topic, which is to criticize the board. Early this week, close to 20 community members came together in support of the Leventhal family and to shine a spotlight on the board's repeated retaliation against them. We attempted to purchase a full-page ad in the Hinsdalian to run Dr. Leventhal's full statement released last week, a statement you well deserve after members Akris and member Waters' statements at the board table on April 24th and the board's misleading April 25th statement emailed to all stakeholders, thousands of them, that cast the Leventhal family in a false light. Surprise, out of fear of legal retaliation by you, the Hinsdalian refused to run the ad. It is confirmed that community members fear retaliation. For example, many of the donors for the ad wanted to remain anonymous out of fear of Kat Greenspon. The vast majority of teachers that I have spoken to fear retaliation by this board. Administrators I have spoken to fear retaliation. And why shouldn't they, after how you have behaved towards the Leventhals and the union last April? I hope the 6 other board members and Dr. Locke will let that sink in. Just like Trump is running our nation, the board president of D86 rules by fear, so much so that our local free press is afraid to run a paid ad and make $840 in the process with a statement protected by the First Amendment, anti-SLAPP laws, supported by evidence, and in defense of a family harmed by your actions. I hope at least behind the scenes, one or more of you are pushing back on the blatant abuse of power and rule by fear and intimidation. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Linda Burke.
First, I would like to join everyone here in thanking the retiring teachers. I didn't see any familiar names. My son had Mr. Duffy, who was also awesome for AP Euro, but I know they were all fantastic, and we wish them the best of everything. Next, I would like to thank this board for all that you do to put students first and take every step possible to maximize opportunity for every student to fulfill their entire potential and to have the greatest possible course opportunities. I'm thrilled that tonight we're taking a step toward allowing a PE exemption for marching band for all the reasons so eloquently expressed by the families and now familiar to us. This is just one example of the board listening to the community and taking a step to make it possible for every kid to fulfill their personal dream. Also, Kat Greenspon has tirelessly worked to maximize resources and opportunities for every single kid. Not one board member has any agenda besides the kids here. Kat Greenspon worked tirelessly to scale back the TIF to a reasonable level and not deplete resources from D86 or the sender schools, one of which has a low tax base and would have been especially hurt by it. Kat Greenspon also perceived a need at the 11th hour to expand the early bird PE option. And on a survey of the families, there was discovered to be interest in this. It wasn't 1,000 kids. You're never going to have 1,000 kids coming to school at 7 a.m. But it was a significant number of kids who could best fulfill their dream and add a special course with that option. These are just among the many opportunities of this board listening to the community and doing your best for every single kid. In the full spectrum of the variety of the kids that we have. And my personal experience with Pam Lanham is that she doesn't, anything that's presented as a fact must be documented. There is too much in this current situation that remains confidential and cannot be documented. And that is another perspective. Thank you to the board for your service.
Our next speaker is Kim Notaro.
This is a thank you to Mr. Freiler. Oh, the DBQs you've known. For Lord Freiler, honors retirement from Hinsdale Central High School 2025. Congratulations, today's your day. The bell's finally ringing, you're heading away. Out of the classroom, no more morning bells, no more name, date, and title or Renaissance to retell. You've recharted the Reformation, taught Voltaire with flair, explained Hegel and Hobbes with your skeptical stare. You've guided with rigor, with kindness and poise, turning students to scholars and thinkers, not noise. You taught us that history isn't just dates and kings, but patterns and context and philosophical things. Philosophy honors, a course of your dream. You built it from scratch and forged a whole team. You rewrote the Freible, not once but times 3, to keep AP Euro as sharp as can be. Lord Freiler, you taught with a passion so wide, from Rousseau to Kant, with Hesperian pride. You consumed ABQs for immortality's sake, decoding the past with each point that you make. And like those Enlightenment greats long since gone, you sparked fierce debate by holding salons. With Socratic questions, you welcomed all thought, where every good answer was sometimes self-thought. Your wisdom so vast, you reached far and broad. You'd say it out loud, Freiler is a god. You faced the DBQ with red pen in hand and shaped how it scored across all the land. You've mentored the mentors, you've led with great care from curriculum shifts to scoring affair. You've shown that historians must question and seek, not just memorize facts, but let arguments speak. And now off you go to museums and to books, to art that you studied in quiet, calm nooks. You'll sip coffee in mornings when the halls are abuzz, no need to assign what the Enlightenment was. But oh, the minds you've shaped, how they will grow. They'll challenge debate and let evidence flow. So this isn't goodbye, but a toast raised high to a teacher, a scholar, a true why-asking guy. Lord Freiler, we thank you. Now go take your throne in the pantheon of legends whose work stands alone. Oh, the DBQs you've consumed, what a legacy shown. With each class and salon, your wisdom has grown, and through every Freible and every exam, the legend of Freiler will echo, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kara Kuo.
Hello, welcome to the new board members. Thank you for your service and thank you for your willingness to be a part of this journey. My youngest graduated 2 years ago and I really did not think that I would ever be sitting here again. And here I find myself again, was I here about a month ago? I didn't write anything down because I wanted to speak from my heart, and I'm so incredibly frustrated with 3 members of the board that still sit at this table. Kat Greenspan, Akris, and Waters. Shame, shame, shame. You claimed in an email that you had nothing to hide. You took a family who is very well respected, the Leventhal family, who I've known for close to 15, 16 years now, and you've raked them over the coals, and yet you claim there's nothing to see here, but you've spent $80,000 of taxpayer money to cover up the bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it came out, so there it is. It's wrong, it's immoral. You sit here, Akris can't even look up at me. She's gonna stare at her screen. You're just embarrassing yourself. $80,000 to cover up, and I spoke to you, Bobby. I reached out before this board election and spoke to you. And you came in and said, oh, let's give Kat 1 more year. Why not shake it up? Why not give somebody else a responsibility? And then we have a community member here who's a noble, 2 of them. I was a plaintiff with this one when we sued you guys. You weren't here on that board, but I sued you as a plaintiff when you took away my First Amendment rights, the previous board. I have a member sitting behind me who's your cheerleader, Kat. I don't know why. There's 7 of you at this table. And every year there's 7 members. It shouldn't just be about Kat Greenspan, and it shouldn't be just about 1 person sitting in that seat. It should be about 7 people doing the best that they can to protect every single child. And you failed for the Leventhal children. You failed. And the 4 of you who are new sitting at this table, do not think that the community will just let you take a slide because you're new. get in here, do the work, find out what the bullshit is, and make sure that if that woman continues to break privacy rules, to oust a superintendent who I was not a fan of, I will say that. She took a microphone away from a community member and I had to ask for it back. Superintendent Prentice, who you ousted, took a microphone away and I had to ask for it back to give my 3 minutes. You didn't do it, but you're on a power trip just like the last lady who sat in your chair. Figure it out. Stop spending $80,000 to protect your cover-up. Do better.
Our next speaker is Natasha York. I'm sorry, I can't read your name. It's okay.
Okay, I just want you to know I've never done this before, but I'm going to tell you what I tell my patients. Everybody just take it. Everybody's going to be good. It's all good. They're all good.
You're fine.
Get all your IVs in. We're good. Okay.
Is the green light on?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You have to speak close to the mic.
Okay, so most of you got my email, so I'll try to keep it short. But I'm Tasha, and I've lived here for about 7 years with my children, Alex and Maddie, who are both children in the district, and my husband, professionally, I'm a nurse, and my husband works in finance in the city. Sorry guys, I'm super nervous after this. Several years ago, while living in Wisconsin, we had a life-changing opportunity to have a German exchange student, Britt, stay with us through a standard J1 visa program. Her time with us was enriching not only for our family, but for the community and the school that she joined. It was wonderful. Britt ran cross-country, she attended dances, she celebrated her first Thanksgiving with us, and she was able to make lifelong friendships. Also, she's since graduated, but is now at Stanford, so she's doing very well, and we stay connected to her and her family. Hosting an exchange student fostered global awareness, encouraged open-mindedness, and brought cultural exchange directly into our home and into our community. We would like to do that again this year for the 2005-2026 school year. Unfortunately, after lengthy conversations and coordination attempts with Hinsdale Central, we were told that D86 cannot approve the request without enforcing the current policy requiring J1 visa students to pay a full tuition, which is almost $30,000. Just so you know, they also pay the company that they work with as a third party, so it's very expensive. We were both surprised and disappointed to learn this, especially after doing our due diligence and believing we were on the right track. Most of our peer districts, I looked up Downers Grove, Highland Park, New Trier, Evanston, Naperville, Elmhurst, and Westmont do not charge for J1 visa students. Many of them also let multiple students per year. I'm just asking for one, just give it a chance with one. Evanston does put a cap at 4 students a year, but I believe D86 could adopt a similarly measured approach going forward. I know you guys all read this, but D86, being an outlier, is creating financial barriers that most districts have chosen not to impose at all. And if you look back, I tried to do the research, but it looks like this wasn't changed until 2023. I could be wrong on the date, but you guys could check that. And I just wonder why. Like, why would we suddenly say you have to pay this amount of money? The high tuition costs create a substantial obstacle for international exchange opportunities, and they diverge from the practices that were once held here and across the norms of Illinois, to be honest. Exchange organizations such as Southern Cross and Boundless Immigration clearly indicate that U.S. public schools typically do not charge for J1 students and list things like books or transportation as the main cost for them. I'm here tonight to request that the board suspend or revise the policy to allow one deserving student to attend D86 this year. Also, there's a board policy, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go a second over. It's 2.240 and allows for a temporary suspension of policies based on urgency, for me, equity, and alignment with other peer institutions. And I feel like this is a perfect example of something that we could try to use that authority to do this. Finally, again, I know more, time is kind of the essence. I have been trying, so I don't want you guys to think I just came here. No, I've been working at this. The student, though, she has to get her visa appointment, arrange travel, and she has to build a relationship with my family. Something that we hope to do over the summer to ensure that she could have a successful transition. By removing the artificial financial barrier, D86 would be upholding its values of diversity and global engagement while enriching the lives of students on both our side and students. And before I go, I don't want to ask you guys for all of this, but there's a, I think it's a policy review, yeah, on Monday. And I read that if it's 48 hours in advance, you can still add to that. So I thought, if I handed these out, I don't know, I'm just trying to do my homework so that, you know, I can't ask for all this and then be like, okay, well, you do all the work. No, I'm trying to do it for you so that you can review it and, you know, I'm not being concerned.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Our next speaker is Neil Weissenberger.
Good evening. My name is Neil Weisenberger. My wife, Kathy, and I live on South Elm Street here in Hinsdale. I'm here this evening to share my experiences with foreign exchange student programs and to seek understanding of the current school board policy regarding exchange programs. So I grew up in a small community in the state of Ohio where every year my high school always had 3 to 4 foreign exchange students. I really enjoyed, as a student in high school, meeting these fellow students, getting to know them as friends, and learning about their countries and cultures. These cross-cultural interactions, in part, led me into completing an undergraduate degree in international studies, an MBA in international management, a junior year abroad program at the American University in Paris, an internship at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., a successful and enjoyable career in international banking, and volunteer relief work in Haiti post-earthquake. In summary, my experiences and relationships with students from other countries changed my life. And I think it could change the lives of some of the students here in the Hinsdale school system as well. So about 2 years ago, my wife and I were approved as a host family by an organization called FLAG International, which is based in Kalamazoo, Michigan. FLAG International has been in existence since the late 1970s and is approved by the U.S. Department of State to facilitate cross-cultural education exchange programs. The final step in the process of hosting a student was for FLAG International to submit the student's academic transcripts and medical records to the Hinsdale school system for review and consideration. We were told that the student was accepted for the 2023-2024 academic year, but would have to pay a $28,000 tuition. So my wife and I, as well as FLAG International, were quite taken by surprise by the policy. FLAG mentioned to me that in all the years that they've been facilitating these programs, they had not encountered such a policy before. The student and his family were not in a position, unfortunately, to fund the tuition fee, and he was unable to find another host family and lost out on, I think, a real significant opportunity that could be life-changing for him. So I would be grateful to the board for any clarification as to when the policy was enacted and the reasons for the policy. I understand that the school system has accepted students in the past without charging the tuition fee. I personally know 2 families in the Hinsdale community who have hosted students in the past. I respectfully ask that the board reconsider the current policy. A change of policy would allow students at Hinsdale Central and Hinsdale South the opportunity to engage students from other countries and cultures, and could even change a life or 2 in the process. So in closing, I'd like to thank the board for your service to the community and for your willingness to allow me to address this policy issue with you.
Our next speaker is Jim Phillip.
Didn't realize I'd have an opportunity to speak, and I don't have any prepared remarks, but I happen to favor what Neil Weissenberger just mentioned. We are residents of Hinsdale, lived here most of our lives. My wife and I graduated in '71 in her case, '70 in my case, and we hosted an exchange student about 15 years ago when our daughter was a sophomore here at Hinsdale. So I would favor any review of that policy. Actually, we started the process ourselves of hosting once again last year, and then when I learned that Neil and Kathy ran into that economic barrier, I figured, well, that's not going to lead anywhere, so we just dropped the application process and so forth. But we'd be very much in favor of review of that policy. Thank you very much.
Our final speaker is Warren Ali.
I'm Warren Oley. I have two sons. One is a rising sophomore at Hinsdale Central, the other is a rising freshman at Hinsdale Central, so very excited. And I'm a supporter of this board, not in the sense that I agree with everything the board does, but I support the board because a great board and a great district supports a great community. So I want to talk about a disturbing trend, and that trend is the vanishing TV theme song. Currently, the top TV show, Tracker, has, after about 3 minutes, a mangled of instruments that they call a theme song. The same for Abbott Elementary. In my day, theme songs actually told you what you might see on the screen. It might tell you the plight of the characters. The theme song for Gilligan's Island or Beverly Hillbillies. And you can say at any time, okay, boomer, we get it. But it was inspirational for us. I can tell you, every time I was promoted, I would think about George and Weezy and moving on up and how hard it was to climb up that hill. And so you have the opportunity in each of these sessions to create their own theme song. Your theme songs in the last few years have felt more like the Twilight Zone or Secession. Not very inspiring. So a new board is here. You don't have the ability to engage Quincy Jones or Henry Mancini or the Rembrandts to sing a song, but you have to create it yourself. And so far, what you created sounds like the same old thing. You elected the same president. You have the same legal fee and settlement stuff going on. You also have Open Meeting Act violation law that needed to be addressed was increasing test scores, was setting a strategic plan, was, according to one member, dealing with a grading crisis. Right? Engaging with the community, being more transparent. All those things you need to be doing. But what have you done so far? You cut your meetings in half. So we don't need to meet as much. You got a lot of work to do. And in organizations where I take over with the results that this one has had, I meet more frequently and I'm more transparent. You decide to meet less frequently and be less transparent. It's not making a lot of sense to me. You have an opportunity to do something different. That's why there's an election every 2 years. Do something different.
Thank you. Moving on to information reports. Principals Peranto and Walsh and Assistant Superintendent Smith will recognize our 2025 district retirees.
Actually, I'm going to do that.
Okay, sorry, Superintendent.
That's all right. Just a couple things about our retirees and how we recognize and celebrate them. I was fortunate to eavesdrop into both the South and the Central end of the year celebration for the retirees. Everyone gathers together in the respective cafeteria, and there is some somber moments, some speeches, a fair amount of frivolity. It's a really warm way to recognize our departing colleagues. Quickly, sort of three themes from what the collective group of retirees mentioned. One, they all commented on how they were tired because the work is really hard. And it really struck me to hear them talk about the late nights grading papers, or the difficult conversations they had with students, or the challenges a parent may have had given them. But like the work is hard. They're happy to be done with that, and we're happy for all the work they did. The second was how each and every one of them commented about how wonderful their colleagues were and the strength of the relationships that they had with their fellow teachers, fellow staff, fellow administrators. It was really warm to see those connections. And all of them commented that D86 is the best place to work. It really made me feel good. We're sorry to lose these folks. I'm going to just read their names quickly. They've served our kids really well, and they've helped build. build the bonds that hold our schools and our community together. Patty Aguilar, guru at data and our information systems. She left middle of the year, well-deserved retirement. Angelique Burrell, an English teacher at Central. Linda Cosino, paraprofessional at Central. Kim Deaver, Director of Deans. She's the one who solves the hardest problems at Central, trust me. Heather Fairman, another English teacher at Central. Christine Ferrone, social studies teacher at Central. Chris Freiler, social studies teacher at Central. Matt Golick at Central High School. He won like a gazillion awards this year. I'm sure he's going to keep doing that. Just unbelievable. Kathy Giles, math teacher at Central. Joanna Jurgens, world languages teacher at Central. Lisa Corbett, math teacher from Central. She'll be missed. Kristen Corfist, another social studies teacher at Central. Cecilia Littlefield, one of our nurses in the TC. Sherry Lodel, both math and German at Hinsdale South. Real great commitment to our German program. We're really sorry to see her go. Tony Malone managed our equipment at Hinsdale South. Tony, I hope your back's feeling better. Dave Nettleton, custodian at Central. Be there making sure things are clean. Kirsten Parsons, keeping things going at Central. Dave Ritter, social studies teacher at South. Rob Russo, Hinsdale Central High School. Funny, we ended up hanging out at the same bar after high school, and fun to hang out with him and realize that. Carrie Sheehan, administrative assistant at Central. Coach Wiggins, also from Central. They made a big impact on all of us. We're sorry to see them go, and congratulations.
Bill, do you have Hinsdale Central good news? No? No. Okay. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Here we go. Sam, can you flip me around? I just have a couple things to say. I'll keep my report brief. We're done with school year 24-25. Congratulations and thank you to everyone. Just this week, we had exit ceremonies at the Transition Center where our students move on to the world of work, and wonderful graduation ceremonies at our 2 high schools. As last year, it's fun to see the kids, but I get more from watching the parents. They're nervous, they're excited. You see different families celebrate this in different ways, and it's just a neat reminder of the fact that we're more than just students, we're a community here, and that parents, you really are the first and most important teachers of your kids. So I know it's the grads who got the diplomas, but parents, thank you for all you've done as well. Also last week, we had our big community breakfast. We do this once a year to recognize and celebrate our students at the Transition Center, but also all the community partners who help us with resources, with job experiences, and all kinds of things. It's a great event. Thank you for everyone who's so involved in that work. It's important. This summer, just a few things. Students and teachers, today was their last day, but the rest of us, we're going to keep working. I wanted to highlight one of the things we did was we decided to make our summer school reading strategies and algebra strategies courses tuition free. We've already got 20 plus students signed up for that. There's a really narrow window, it closes on Sunday, but if you're a rising 8th grader or a parent of a rising 8th grader and you want your student to get some free ways to step up academically before you go to South or Central, this is a great way to do it. We want to make sure it's as easy as possible for kids to make that transition into high school. So happy to do this. please take advantage of the opportunity. We've got a lot of construction projects coming up. I'm not going to read this list off, but it's all up on our website. We've pushed this out on the socials. There likely will be some transportation changes if you are parking or driving around either of our schools, because there'll be trucks and workers. But we're going to make sure things are ready for students and staff when they come back in the fall. Lastly, I want to thank the team sitting way in the back. They do all the work every single day to make sure our schools are running. And that's a full-time job, just to sort of make sure things happen. When I started early in the fall, I said, we got to keep doing that, but we have to do a few things to make things better. Little incremental changes every year. We highlighted all those back in November. I'm not going to go through all the results of that work, but we got a lot of things done. Now, these kind of projects, like to start a conversation about grading practices at Central, or to ratchet up the number of students enrolled in AP or honors courses as they did at South, or to do a full security audit and come up with a brand new plan for new security things we have to do. These are all the above and beyond things we do. They feel like small steps now, but remember, change feels really incremental when you're in it. It's only when you look in the rearview mirror that you see the big progress. So thanks to all of them for the progress we made. We'll send out some details about this in the newsletter that's coming this weekend, and there's more details in my slides if anyone's interested. They did a great job. It's a pleasure to work with them. And that's the report.
Thanks, Mike. Moving on to board committee reports, the May 14th Finance Committee report. Chair Waters will provide the May Finance Committee report.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on May 14, 2025. The committee discussed the following. Key financial drivers, history, and budget was presented by CFO Stevenson. The following revenue trends were noted. State and federal revenues are stagnant or declining. Efforts are made to align revenues with property tax extension limitation law, also known as PTEL, to maintain consistency. Regarding retirement and staffing, there has been an increase in teacher retirements. 13 out of 18 has allowed reallocation of funds from salary to non-salary line items. The hiring of less experienced teachers contributes to cost savings as well. With respect to energy costs, there have been significant increases in electricity supply and infrastructure costs, particularly related to ComEd. Potential contract in May of 2026 to lower supply costs is under consideration. Natural gas contracts have also recently been renegotiated. Private facility tuition expenditures are at an all-time high, influenced by inflation rather than an increase in out-of-place students. Property and casualty insurance premiums have risen due to natural disasters and liability claims. Cybersecurity insurance introduced at $80,000 annually, which is up markedly. There has been an increased utilization of software contracts due to one-on-one implementation. We are making efforts to lock in annual increases with PTEL limits. With respect to student transportation, there is an underutilization of buses, especially at Hinsdale Central, due to time constraints rather than capacity. Special education transportation remains a significant cost driver. The district transitioned to a single registration fee to simplify collections and reduce nuisance fees to families. Regarding debt service, the outstanding bonds were presented at the committee. The committee was also presented with and discussed the annual review of the treasurer's bond. The requirement changed from 25% to 10% of total funds on hand. The invoice amount is $7,700. It is to be filed with the Regional Office of Education before June 15th. CFO Stevenson discussed the authorization of the fiscal year 2025 audit. Whitfully has been engaged for the district's audit for the past 11 years. Preliminary field work scheduled for June 9th and the 10th. First audit in the last week of July. Audit reports to be presented in an upcoming meeting. The committee discussed procurement of security cameras for Hinsdale Central and Hinsdale South. These are not replacements, these are additions only. CFO Stevenson presented a proposal to add high-resolution exterior cameras at Hinsdale Central and Hinsdale South. Procurement would be through cooperative purchasing agreements. There would be no significant price increases anticipated due to tariff exemptions. Assistant coach additions for the girls wrestling and girls flag football were also discussed. Assistant coach additions were proposed for girls wrestling and girls flag football. Wrestling. On the wrestling side, female coach is recommended for representation and supervision. And flag football, growth of the program necessitates junior levels and separate practice coverage. Transition center staffing was also discussed. Projected enrollment for the upcoming year is between 90 and 108 students. Reduction of one full-time equivalent FTE staff member was approved. Staffing adjustments are based on student needs and program requirements. And finally, one other thing I didn't put in here was the committee discussed the consideration you might hear about this evening regarding merging or presenting the finance and facility meeting at the same time in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. May 16th, Facilities Committee Report. Chair Waters, will you provide the May Facilities Committee Report?
Yes. The Facilities Committee met on May 16, 2025. The committee discussed the following. South pool deck and locker room updates. The central pool deck, west side complete. Remaining work starts on May 27th. South locker rooms, demolition, shot blasting completed. Slab touch-ups and concrete overlay schedule, tile mock-ups beginning next week. Architects and construction team approved surface conditions. Decor and color scheme was also discussed. There are no changes to the yellow tile or existing paint planned. Central's darker repaint was due to challenges matching the original color. The swim club has been briefed and the facility's FAQ page will be updated for public transparency. Summer 2025 renovations and traffic coordination. Starting on June 2nd, 2025, Hinsdale South will be mostly closed due to bathroom construction. Minimal program will continue with alternate accommodations. Grant Street construction goes on between June 8th and June 30th. It affects summer school traffic flow. Drop-off will occur via the 57th Street bus lane. Summer school principals, ESY, and swim club has been notified. Residents on 57th Street will be notified about congestion. Suggestion was made to create a website hub with all construction updates for the benefit of the community. South Varsity baseball field access at Hinsdale South. The field currently lacks safe ADA compliant pedestrian access. Preferred bridge option, it's a metal framed wood decked pedestrian bridge over the ditch floodplain area. Cost estimates between $50,000 and $60,000. Minimal water disruption with compliance relative to the floodplain. Alternative options, concrete culverts, which start at $150,000 and pose greater environmental disruption. The land falls under DuPage County unincorporated floodplain zone. Collaboration for the project will be the Village of Darien and DuPage County. The project will require one or more intergovernmental agreements. Next step, to continue to explore viable options and pursue potential grant support and legislative advocacy. Summer 2026 renovation planning, restroom renovations at Hinsdale Central. Renovation or relocation of the athletic training room, currently in the basement. The Booster Club, along with a contingent of community members, have proposed extending or expanding the Bouchard Center, which includes the weight room, speed track, and relocated athletic training facility. The early estimate, which is still unverified, is approximately $3.5 million. The district will remain neutral in fundraising activities, but will help validate project scope and costs and allow the community to determine realistic fundraising targets. The concept was shared with Archon and Pepper Construction for validation. Final determination by mid to late fall 2025 for a possible June 2026 start. Thank you.
Thank you. The May 19th A&O Committee Report. Chair Fisher, will you provide the May A&O Committee reports?
I sure will. The Availability and Opportunities Committee met on May 19th, 2025. This committee continues to hear great ideas and discussion from the community members who advise it, and we benefit from the research of Dr. Locke's team. So that's what we're going to describe here. The committee convened to align on timelines and expectations for submitting a draft program of studies by fall of 2025. In addition to the report, the committee will share recommendations with the board as they arise. August or September was cited as the ideal window for report release. The goal of the committee is to transition from 11 proposed ideas into actionable recommendations that provide a sustainable program of studies. Key agenda items include finalizing the list of ideas, selecting high priority items for deeper data pulls, and identifying barriers to equity in course access. The group emphasized avoiding overlap with the academic committee. An example was grading policy discussions. Discussion topics included inequities in freshman elective availability across departments. The group considered expanding one semester elective options to give freshmen more exposure and allow flexibility if every other year courses are adopted and communicated with the community. Staff clarified the difference between offered courses in the program studies and those actually scheduled to run. While 304 courses are offered, only about 90% are staffed and appear on schedules. Some receive 0 student requests annually. During the comparative review of course offerings and scheduling models, the committee referenced 5 peer high schools from nearby districts. This comparison revealed that District 86 offers significantly more courses, especially in English and PE. It was acknowledged that different scheduling models and class period flex complicate direct comparison to other schools. These schools were selected for their geography, proximity, enrollment size, academic programs, and relevance to District 86's planning. Courses running below 25 plus or minus 2 class threshold were discussed. Offering too many options spreads enrollment thinly, leading to low enrollment sections. Singletons, courses that are offered only one period, increase scheduling conflicts. A detailed walkthrough of the Infinite Campus scheduling system was provided, including setup of guardrails, priority settings, singleton placement, course loading, and extensive trial and error used to reach 99% course fulfillment. In general, the entire group was impressed by the steps that the team takes to make sure that we can deliver courses to students that they requested. The 81% full schedule fulfillment rate at South prompted interest in analyzing the remaining 19%. The group agreed to build a concrete list of low enrollment, 0 enrollment, and singleton courses and recommend options: removal, summer, alternating years, or merging courses. So the next steps here, preparing for the next meeting, we intend at the next meeting to review a summary of scheduling conflicts for the 19% of South students this year who had a course conflict. We plan to finalize the metrics and targets that we'll use to measure availability and opportunities, and we'll describe principles for course adjustments. The next 3 meetings, June is a busy month, will be June 2nd, June 16th, and June 30th. We ended up finding a conflict on June 16th, so we moved that to Tuesday, June 17th to maximize contributions from everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to organizational items, board committees. As a reminder, policy 2:150 identifies 7 standing board committees. Policy, PTAC, facilities, finance, HR, and academic. In addition to these 7, 6 standing committees. In addition, the board has 2 ad hoc or special committees: availability and opportunities committee and closed session minutes review committee. Our agenda has 3 items regarding committees. First, we will discuss our committees and then discuss whether or not we want to restructure the committees and their work for the 25-26 school year. If the board determines it will make changes to the committee structure, we will then take action accordingly and adjust committee appointments. So let's start by talking about facilities and finance. Deb, when was the facilities committee? Or Josh, do you want to come up? You're the administrator on both committees. When was the facilities committee convened as a standing committee for the board? Do you remember?
When was it convened? If you go back pre-referendum, pre-master facilities plan, there was a time when all 7 board members sat on the facilities committee.
Mm-hmm.
Post that, it transitioned to kind of the regular structure with either 2 or 3 members. And then during the referendum projects, it operated alongside like a community committee that participated in kind of overview of the whole referendum, project as a whole. And post-referendum, they've operated alongside the pool task force group.
Does anybody have any questions for Josh with regards to the facilities committee?
So with the consideration to merge those two facilities, I think the bulk, vast majority of the work with the special task force and the regular cadence-like work of the facilities committee in general, would you see any excessive finance meetings to the extent the committees merge?
So I think there's overlap or significant shared interest between finance and facilities. We have times where items visit both committees, so there's some duplication of work having separate committees. I think post-referendum in the place we are now, facilities would not probably have a significantly rigorous schedule and would not have a need to meet on a monthly basis. So I think it could be merged into the finance committee, and the work really could happen kind of under one shared committee for both areas.
So what we could do is to hold the finance committee and the facilities committee meetings jointly for the 25-26 school year, or until the board decides that they need to separate, with Josh's recommendation likely that needed to happen. And then assign joint committee members and chair, create a joint charter for the conjoined committee, and there would be no policy update needed. Or we can take action to create a new joint committee. Assign committee members and chair to the new committee, create a charter for the new committee, update policy to remove the prior committees, and add the new joint committee. Does anybody have any opinion?
I would just ask Deb, what do you think about that in terms of exercising how to get there?
If you were to join the committees, you would just want to have participation remain at 3. So either way, you're just kind of structuring, you're leaving an option open to not have to change policy to move it back. That's really the only.
Am I correct that PTAC doesn't meet monthly, it meets more quarterly? Is there a thought or a benefit to doing something like that with facilities where it's not a monthly committee, it's more of a periodic committee? Is there anything really unique to facilities that would benefit scaling back versus just absorbing?
I kind of, whatever direction the board ultimately gives us is kind of how we will proceed forward. There's multiple paths we could go down with this.
My thought was when the cycles of facilities planning, short and long-term projects, things that happen on a typical cycle, it's not something that needs to be discussed monthly.
Correct, yes. With facilities, you're going to have a period of time, probably in the fall, where there's some design development work going on with next summer's projects. We're working to get out to bid. Once those bids are awarded, things are kind of going to just sit until the construction starts in the summer. We're more on a normal, summer construction cadence now compared to we're operating, year-round basically for a number of years during the referendum time period. I think the advantages of combining them is there's significant back and forth between determining project prioritization and funding, and so it's either things are going back and forth between the committees, or they're happening under one roof, talking about projects, developing project prioritization, and determining what funding options are going to be used to address those projects, and making one recommendation to the board. I think you potentially argue a little bit more of an efficient process compared to bouncing back and forth. happy to operate under whichever structure the board directs.
That's very helpful. No, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think we should try to reduce duplication of work, and it would be more efficient, so I think I'm in favor of combining them.
So, it may be, we can do it for this year, not change policy, and then revisit next year. The board can decide, and Josh, if we need to change policy. So, may I have a motion to join the Finance and Facilities Committees for the 25-26 school year, or until the board determines there is a need to separate these committees. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion Waters, is there a second?
Second, Satchwell.
Second Satchwell. Is there any discussion? Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Aye.
Member Fisher.
Aye.
Member Mitha.
Aye.
Member Akris.
Aye.
Member Leacock.
Aye.
Member Satchwell.
Aye.
Member Waters.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Now that would mean that our facilities and finance committees are being collapsed together. Jeff, you are chair of both, so can you remain chair? Bob, you are actually on both, so do you mind remaining?
Not at all.
And Liz, you're happy to do it?
Happy to do it.
So officially I will roll off. So the Joint Finance Facilities Committee will be chaired by Jeff Waters with members Mitha and Fisher. Okay? So we're moving on to schedule of regular meetings. As directed by the board at our May 8th Committee of the Whole meeting, administration has prepared a draft schedule of regular meetings and associated operational calendar for 25-26 for our review. This draft schedule incorporates the following requests by the board. There will be no board or committee meetings in July. One board meeting per month on Thursdays at 6 p.m. except as needed. As a reminder, 2 meetings are proposed in August, including a regular meeting and board self-evaluation. 2 meetings are proposed for a review of the program of studies. First read October 30th and second read November 25th. 2 meetings are proposed in the month of March to review and approve the next year's certified staffing recommendation. The regular meeting, the meeting date meets the operational needs of the district. The last Thursday of the month is proposed for the board's regular meeting. Adjustments are proposed for conflicts. Committee meetings will be scheduled before the monthly meeting so that the committee chairs can report out to the BOE regular meeting. A 2-week window is highlighted for committee meetings each month, with the exception of December and March. Committee schedules may need to adjust accordingly. Post agenda materials earlier to allow additional time for BOE review. Thank you, Bob and Mitha. Administration will post the meeting agenda and materials the Friday before the Thursday meeting, giving the board 5 full days to review materials in addition to the posting date and meeting date. Are there any questions regarding the schedule of regular meetings?
I just wanted to highlight something to consider would be potentially adding closed meetings regularly into the schedule, because I'm concerned that things may pop up and that we will not have a meeting scheduled to address things in closed, and then we'll be addressing schedule conflicts and vacations and such. So I was thinking it might be a good idea to, even if we don't have a meeting publicly, that we're able to have a closed meeting on the calendar and can cancel if needed.
Are you suggesting once a month for the closed meetings?
I think that would make sense. It seems like it would make sense to me, just given especially if we're having these meetings monthly. I could foresee this in some months unintentionally having 5-hour meetings or something similar. And I don't know about everyone here, but I'm not my best after 5 hours of a meeting. So in the interest of making the best decision for students and moving things forward as needed, I think it would be wise to include closed on a monthly basis and cancel if not needed.
Doesn't necessarily have to be on a Thursday at 6 p.m., correct? I just want to go around
Oh, yeah.
and make sure everybody agrees with that.
With that specifically, or just in general, this calendar?
Well, this calendar, but also
With
with
the
Liz's,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
suggestion.
in favor. I think that better aligning with the fundamentals of effective governance will allow us to use our one meeting a month really effectively. And the committees will do the work that needs to be done, but the day-to-day operation of the district is not done by us, and it's not done here in this meeting, and so we don't need more meetings if we don't need them. So,
Jeff? Asma?
I'm fine with the suggestion right now, but are we also addressing what Liz is suggesting?
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm in concurrence with what Liz is suggesting, just due to the fact that I think we should try to minimize closed meetings for transparency purposes, and we should do it as base needed. If we need to, we were contacted to put something on a calendar every month for me to hold. I just think it makes logistical, and I think we should minimize them as much as we can.
Mike?
I'm fine with whatever direction the board provides.
Pat?
You know, I've heard a few comments in the last, since our last meeting, that having fewer meetings is somehow bad or will slow down progress. I do want to point out that when I've met with administrators and, people in the buildings, our meeting schedule does create a chasing a tail scenario where there's always a meeting 2 weeks away and we can't do the kind of long-range planning we need to do. And that's what I appreciated about Board Member Satchwell's comments about the Facilities Committee. We're often so run by these every other week needs that we can't do, the administrators and professional educators can't do the long-range planning that we need to do. So I'm excited about the opportunity to cut the meeting burden on district staff. I do think there's a scheduling convenience to just saying this is when we're gonna do our closed meeting, and then like Board Member Akris, I hope we cancel most of them.
Same, agree. Aaron?
Yeah, I like having a scheduled meeting that we can cancel, and if that doesn't work, we can just kind of plan it as needed. And yeah, I mean, I think in terms of reducing the number of meetings, we want people to have as much time to do the work as possible. And it is it is a burden to administration to create the meetings and have them happen. So if we can do the same work on our part without creating additional burden to the folks on the ground, then there's a huge value there, and we can always change it if we need to have more meetings. I like both.
One thing I was going to add, the only downside to scheduling closed session meetings, and to the extent they're canceled largely, is the community, if not, specifically and poignantly informed of this possible cadence of the cancellation consistently can misperceive and misconstrue why is the board canceling all these meetings they had scheduled. So I think communication surrounding this consideration just needs to be maximized, just to make sure that people don't take the wrong message. But I would ask any of the cabinet members to speak to your opinion on, to the extent there's less frequent convening of the board. I recall in my years of service that board members would have questions for data, and the every 2-week thing that Board Member Fisher mentioned could become taxing. As a board member, you may not get the information you want, but the expectation to think you can is often unrealistic, because this isn't the only job performed by our staff and administration and cabinet. So if anybody would mind coming up here just to opine as to, for the community, for the community's benefit, no work will be lost that needs to be accomplished. And if that's a concern, at least come up and say that it's a concern. But to everybody's point at the table, administration, cabinet, et cetera, they spend a lot of time serving the board, and as long as the job continues to get done, I think it's to what Board Member Fisher said, the work's getting done. And as long as that's not taxing on administrators, and in fact, perhaps less so, and it allows time to fall off the clock for information to be gathered in one once a month versus every 2 weeks, that dog chasing the tail piece often, or could go away. So if there's any oppositional opinions, please share them, but I just wanted to throw that out.
So I think that Cabinet provided feedback on this calendar. So with regards to Liz's suggestion,
Yeah, I'm not wedded to that either.
Okay.
I don't wanna, it's just a thought. If it creates more hurdles, then that's not the intention. The intention is to make it as easy, honestly, as possible on us to keep the ball moving and not hinder any work for kids.
okay. So if we were to add a regularly scheduled monthly closed session, my suggestion would be, it would be the Tuesday before the Friday of the posting, so that anything discussed in closed session, we could take action on.
The following week,
Yep.
so the third Tuesdays.
Yep. If we were to want to look at that. I am okay, personally, with just scheduling a special meeting if we need closed session, which also allows Mike and his team to tell us they need a closed session. We may need more than one during a month. One never knows what's happening, right? Not that one, but, so I'm okay with keeping it off also. Is everybody okay with that?
I guess just my concern then, what we're saying is that we would block our calendars once a month for closed unless we cancel, and we usually cancel, like, what would be, I mean, it just
No,
not.
What I just said was that we would not put it on the calendar. And we
Yes.
would schedule a special meeting if we needed it, based upon the
That's exactly what I was
administration
saying.
saying we
Thank
need
you.
a closed session.
But that's what I was suggesting, thank you.
Yes.
No, I think that's a great compromise. I was just worried about work travel. I don't perform as well remotely.
Yeah.
And by saying, if we do it, that's when we're gonna do it, I can plan my work travel around that. So this all makes sense.
Okay, so just so we're clear, the direction we're providing Deb is that this calendar looks okay, and that administration will post, Mike, the Friday before the meeting, and board committees will happen the second, third week of the month. So the first or second, yeah. So that board committees can report up to the board. And we will not add a meeting for closed session. We'll wait and see if we need them. Okay? Okay.
So committee chairs will then connect with their members and provide dates, or at their next meeting, we'll add an agenda item and they'll select their schedule in those grade out timeframes. Is that right? Let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question about PTAC scheduling. Is there a particular cadence that we should be watching out for setting up PTAC meetings?
Yes.
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 Carrie?
What we talked about this year with the chair, which obviously can be changed, what we had talked about was doing a meeting in October and then one in January.
Or maybe February, so we have all the time we need to prepare the data.
Yeah, so we talked about those times just because October would allow for like a year-to-year comparison, and then that January-ish meeting, February-ish meeting would allow for discipline code updates, handbook updates, and then to review and share the semester one data.
So planning for 2 meetings total?
Correct,
Okay,
but
thank
again,
you.
that is your,
As of now?
as a chair,
Okay,
yep, you can
thank you.
just change that.
Was there anything else?
Can I just sort of say two things? One, Jeff, a couple points ago, appreciate what you said. I want to make sure the board knows if you have questions, we will get those answered. We may not be able to answer them tomorrow. And I will be pretty clear when you ask, it's like, that's soon or that's gonna take a few months. But don't let that hinder your questions, and we can figure out the right way to distribute and share all those sorts of things. And just to sort of emphasize something Deb alluded to, we are already anticipating the need for a special meeting in early August to deal with hiring.
Okay. All right, moving on. Moving forward with LEND. The board will discuss participation in and engagement with the Legislative Education Network of DuPage team that provides legislative support for DuPage County school districts. This is kind of a legislative advocacy group. In general, the superintendents of the districts are the participants of this board. So Superintendent Locke hasn't been able to join the meetings because they're Friday mornings, and we tend to have a lot of meetings on Friday mornings. If this board would like to appoint a board member, let's talk about it, or if they're fine with Superintendent Locke participating. I think with the schedule opening up a little bit, it may be easier for you to participate. Would you agree, Superintendent Locke? But it's up to the board.
I have a question about the benefit of LEND, given that it's focused on legislation and we already are members of IASB and they do legislation and push legislation, in particular in Springfield. Is there a different focus for LEND that provides us a benefit?
So there's a whole lot of lobbying groups in Springfield. Various people who are looking for action from their legislature. The unions do a lot of that, and so do the professional associations. There are 3 sort of specific school district lobbying groups. LEND organizes DuPage County. EdRed is the LEND version of the North Shore districts, and LUDA is a collection of the large urban school districts, and they each have their own teams that do this. I don't know how the others really operate, but generally these kinds of outfits are you hang out a shingle offsite an existing lobbying firm, and I believe that's how LEND works. And then there's sort of a pass-through of dues that ends up paying for a proportion of the time of the lobbyists that are part of that. So this is an entity that has existed for a long time, explicitly to focus on the needs of school districts in DuPage County.
So one important accomplishment, I guess, for LEND was specifically advocating for the continuer code legislation. They worked with the DuPage County school districts and feedback.
That's helpful, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I think my preference or my support is for Mike to participate. Sorry, Mike. Does anybody have any, is there opposition or suggestions otherwise? Okay. You're it, Mike.
That sounds fine, and if there are periodically issues you want an update on or want us to advocate for, against, let's talk to you. I'll pass that message on.
Fantastic, thanks. So IASB Governing Board Report, call for resolutions. The board's IASB Governing Board Representative, Member Statchwell, will connect with the board on IASB's call for resolutions. Member Statchwell?
Yes, I was just wanting to take an opportunity to see if the board had any particular topics that we would like to propose for a resolution. The deadline is June 25th to submit. Yes, that's right. So there's a little bit of time, and so I wanted to give some lead up time in case there is something that we feel we would like the delegate assembly to consider and the resolutions committee to consider at the over the summer and then to vote on at the assembly in November. No, not at this time. Well, you have a little time to think about it, so we have another meeting early June. If anything you feel is pressing, I have never been a part of proposing a resolution during my time on a board, but I have seen lots of them, and if there's an issue that we feel would really benefit the legislative advocacy power of IESB, this is how you do it.
Mary, what's the best way to, how can we, if I had, do you want us to text you, call you, email you, what would work best for you?
I think email would be great.
Okay.
And if it helps, I can share, copies of resolutions from the last year or two, in case that gives you some ideas of what kinds of things are being proposed.
Okay, thank you.
I guess just one idea, Mary, and
Yeah.
I know this is not for administrators, but it's for school board members. We're struggling with the state accountability tests.
Mm-hmm.
We switched from SAT to ACT. Our implementation of ACT was challenging. The ACT format and test is changing again next year. We understand that the state will be lowering the thresholds. I 100% am skeptical of standardized testing and everything that's associated with that. I also 100% believe in accountability and having good numbers to manage from. It doesn't really seem to me that the state is focusing on that, and I believe very strongly that high reputation, high performing school districts like District 86 really benefit from that, from strong accountability from the state, from external sources that helps us just improve. I don't know if that's a resolution,
Well, it's very-
or that's just a diatribe, but
I
you
mean,
can think
it's a
about
great
it.
initial idea. I think, just for everyone's benefit, my understanding is that when a resolution is passed at the delegate assembly, it puts the lobbying force of ISB behind a cause, more so than the implementation of rules or how, the legislation is implemented. So, and written, in terms of something like the state accountability test, that might be a more immediate issue that something like LEND would focus on.
Yeah.
That's my initial instinct, but it's a great idea to put more thought into.
So I guess it's up to you at Lend, like.
Sorry, no, kick it back.
Yeah. All right, moving on to action items. Is there any further discussion? Sorry. Moving on to action items. Authorize the FY25 audit. Chair Waters provided detail of the Finance Committee discussion of the FY25 audit in his report. So may I have a motion to authorize the FY 2025 audit as required by state statute?
So moved.
Motion Waters, is there a second?
Second, Mitha.
Second Mitha. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Leka?
Aye.
Member Setchwell?
Aye.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Approve treasurer's bond renewal. Chair Waters provided details of the Finance Committee discussion of the treasurer's bond renewal in his report. May I have a motion to approve renewal of the public official treasurer's bond of 10% of the projected highest fund balance of $110 million for $11 million. May I have a motion?
So moved, Fisher.
Second?
Second, Satchwell.
Is there any discussion? Will you please call roll?
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Leka?
Aye.
Member Setchwell?
Aye.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye, motion carries. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, and Member Fisher?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Approve security camera purchase. The Finance Committee supports procurement of security cameras at high resolution exterior cameras at Hinsdale Central and Hinsdale South through cooperative purchasing agreements. May I have a motion to approve the purchase of security cameras at Hinsdale Central and Hinsdale South through Procom Enterprises Limited per TIPS cooperative purchasing agreement for an amount of $68,395.18. May I have a motion?
So moved, Mitha.
Is there a second?
Second, Leka.
Is there any discussion?
I'm excited about this. the team at our schools has stayed focused on security. We have valid reasons to focus on security, and this is yet another positive step.
Thank you. Anybody else? Deb, will you call roll?
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Leacock?
Aye.
Member Satchwell?
Aye.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Approve Assistant Director of Special Education contract. May I have a motion to approve a one-year contract effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 for the Assistant Director of Special Education with Kelly Stapleton at an annual salary of $115,000. May I have a motion?
So moved, Akris.
Do I have a second?
Second, Satchwell.
Is there any discussion? Will you call roll, please, Deb?
Member Leacock?
Aye.
Member Satchwell?
Aye.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Approve Student 25-002 Residency and Settlement Agreement. May I have a motion to approve Student 25-002 Residency and Settlement Agreement and release as presented? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Waters, motion Waters. Do I have a second?
Second, Satchwell.
Second Satchwell. Is there any discussion? Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Satchwell?
Aye.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Leacock?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Approve Student 25-003 Residency and Settlement Agreement. May I have a motion to approve Student 25-003 Residency and Settlement Agreement and release as presented?
So moved, Mitha.
Second, Fisher.
Motion Mitha, second Fisher. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Leacock?
Aye.
Member Satchwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items consist of items that are routine in nature or that have been discussed with the board and are now presented for approval. Any item may be pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion and consideration. All items on the consent agenda are approved with a single motion unless removed before the roll call vote. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for further discussion for a separate vote?
Yes, I'd like to remove policy 6.310, high school credit.
Is there anything else? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Satchwell, second Waters. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Member Greenspan?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Mitha?
Aye.
Member Akris?
Aye.
Member Leacock?
Aye.
Member Satchwell?
Aye.
Member Waters?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. So now may I have a motion to approve item 15.1, policy 6:310, high school credit for non-district experiences, course substitutions, and re-entering students. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion Waters, is there a second?
Second, Fisher.
Second Fisher. Is there discussion? Liz?
Yes, I wanted to just bring this up because I'm concerned about this potential slippery slope of granting exceptions here. I know that the policy right now is that the PE exemption for marching band is for band season only. And I, as a music parent myself, really respect and understand that families are advocating for a semester or full year exemption. But I'm concerned that if we make this exception for band students, that athletes aren't receiving this exception and they are also doing a lot of physical activity. I'm concerned that this is going to be a real slippery slope and am more interested in advocating for a full evaluation of the music program itself. And then if we do feel later on that there is need for setting a standard for exceptions, we could do that. For instance, a department or a course might say, we have an hour of physical activity every single day, and it may be something atypical that we're not thinking about, and any course that falls in that bucket would deserve a PE exception. I'm just worried about addressing these issues piecemeal and not thinking about it more holistically.
So I think the policy is actually striking language that was unique to this district. So it's not the press language. So the press language actually doesn't have during football season. And then if you look at the press language and then the explanation, it specifically says from press that in fact, they do not recommend putting a student mid-semester back into PE from study hall. So we kind of really need we're rolling back to actual press language and not district-specific language, and we're not saying that administration has to provide the exemptions.
Okay.
It's just giving us the opportunity to possibly in the future.
And that was actually my question. So that's the only, it is press language, and what we're suggesting is to make that edit of just removing during football season. That's it.
Correct, so that would reflect press language as opposed to district-specific language. But if you look in the press language, Deb, can you read it? Wait. So if you look in the language for the press,
I have it pulled up, but yeah.
Right, but specifically about the students and not putting them back from a study hall, back in PE during the semester, right?
So I think it's in the footnotes.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
This looks like a full year exemption, or as long as a student is enrolled. So if I were a 9th grade student playing French horn, thank God we don't have to deal with that. No one needs to hear that. If I were a 9th grade student enrolled in marching band, I would be guaranteed a PE exception for the entire year. Is that correct?
No. So that would be up to Mike and administration to write the administrative procedure that supports and operationalizes the board policy.
Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are consistent with how I spoke here, I guess, end of April about it. I've heard from a lot of parents and students about things we need to consider in our music program. What are the goals? Are we trying to increase the quality of performances, the number of performances, the number of students? And so, to me, there's a whole bunch of things we need to tackle, and that's why I'm not in favor of making these changes now, because I think we got to figure out a whole bunch of these sorts of things. As I mentioned, I don't know, a month ago, I have some misgivings about this. I think PE is important. I think that learning about fitness is important. I think there are many, many places in our schools where kids figure out their identities and find their people. So I'm concerned about moving too fast here without time to really do the analysis and think through what we're really trying to accomplish with our music programs, what matters most to our families, what's the best way to provide that to help our kids achieve their ideal futures.
Can I just get clarification? I'm really, this is a full policy that's been, and we're literally just voting on removing 3 words. Is that how everybody's understanding? I mean, I'm at a loss of how this turns into a whole ramification of. And not to take away from those 3 words, but.
Yeah, they're 3 words, they're 3 powerful words. Like we've heard a lot of people who don't want to take PE, who want to be the ability to take other classes, who want the ability to take full year courses, and all of those to me have pretty they're pretty complicated. And so I worry that making this change that says, okay, we're gonna make it match press, but then the administration has to go adjust the administrative procedures to do what's best for kids, it just opens up a whole bunch of issues. For instance, we heard a lot of students say they didn't want to take PE because they wanted to take other courses, even AP courses. I'm super concerned about the mental health of our kids and the pressure they're under. Opening things up so kids can take more rigorous courses. For some kids, that's great. For other kids, they're gonna feel the pressure to do that, and that's gonna be problematic. I've been hearing from a lot of people, we need to focus on grades and grading. I remember James talking about how we need to figure out honors. I'm concerned about it. 90% of the course enrollments at Central in the music department are for honors level courses. 99% of our semester 1 grades in music were an A. This is if you care about a weighted GPA, music provides an advantage. And maybe that's the right setup. We just haven't done the analysis to think all that stuff through.
Deb, can you read the policy language, please?
So in the section substitution for physical education, the press language reads ongoing participation in a marching band program for credit. And then there's a footnote 18 to that specific item, which cites the administrative code. This policy excuses students from PE only during the marching band season because the state allows the exemption for ongoing participation in such marching band program. Thus, if the marching band season is over, the student's ongoing participation has ceased, and the student no longer qualifies for the exemption. Common sense, however, would allow that the exemption continue to the end of the current grading period.
So that would be, per the language, that would be a first semester that's not a full year. I'm not sure how we got to that discussion. I'm not seeing it per that language, right? So the question is, right now, our students have the PE exemption during what is being categorized as football season. Should they report to PE for the first couple of weeks? They do like PACER testing, so on and so forth. They participate, they then go to a study hall and then return roughly at the end of November for the last couple of weeks of the first semester. There's a couple of operational and administrative things that I have questions about with the way it's running right now. First and foremost, the kids are counted in the sections for PE because they're in the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks of the first semester, but the rest of the time are in a study hall, which is also staffed, right? So we have to clarify that. It's cleaner, even for staffing, to either have them in PE or have them in study hall or another 1 semester course, because right now
So wait, hold, and I was trying to reconcile this relative to the tallies, which was hard to do. What does that mean? Are there 3 tallies for 1 semester when there otherwise would have been 1 if they had another class and elective, which doesn't have to be?
It's something that A&L can look at. No, because the problem is they have to be counted in the PE section because they're in the first 2 weeks and the last couple of weeks, right? So they're not going to be taken off the roster, the attendance roster, right? But they're also pushed into a study hall that also has to be staffed. So for example, at Central, we had like 170 or something like that band students. That's a lot of kids to have both counted in PE and then counted in study hall, right?
Because they have to have an adult who's in the study hall with them, so there
Yep.
has to be 2 adults who
At
are on
least.
their record for a semester
I don't
because
think-
of the way it's set up.
Mhm.
So,
Remember that the timeline of staffing is, course requests are completed in January, February. I worry that if we adjust staffing numbers based on those numbers, you preclude students from saying, hey, I want to do this sport, or I want to do this activity later on. I think it may make it harder for students to choose what they want to do, though we certainly understand the tensions with the numbers, and I'm worried about the finances a great deal.
So wait, so this doesn't.
But maybe I think there may be other options that we could think about, but we just not have had the time to think through those options.
But mechanically, we're only considering this on the consent agenda to strike 3 words to give the district the option.
Correct.
Not the mandate to consider applications for a 1-semester PE exemption. So, Mike, I guess my question is, while you may not, some of us support the exemption for a handful of reasons, and some you may not, but nonetheless, regardless of the merit of your opinion or mine on the PE exemption, this consideration, if approved, doesn't mandate PE exemptions being allowed. It just paves the path for the consideration. Is that correct?
For a 1-semester consideration based upon the language in the footnote.
We would have to go figure out how to operationalize this in an administrative procedure.
Correct.
But I appreciate you making that point, that this is, the board's intention here is not to designate a certain amount of a PE substitution and whatnot. It's to let the administration figure out the best path for kids.
Yeah, I guess, Jeff, I'm pretty strongly in favor of this change because we're reverting to recommended language, and semantically, putting our music programs under the thumb of our football programs in this way, does devalue our music programs. That was always the force of this. Marching band, those same kids are training for pep band. Those same kids perform in various parades. Those same kids march state qualifiers through the hallways. And this connection, saying that our music programs, are somehow meant to serve the purpose of football, was also semantically problematic from the start. This was a bad decision. We're fixing it. That gives our music educators a chance to re-envision what a great music program might be. And I'm glad we're talking about it. And I really liked what Board Member Mitha said about really giving a vision and goals so that we can make the music program as strong as it can be at our schools.
Well, I would also add that football season is not the entirety of the active season for, quote, marching band. They also play basketball games, right?
Well,
so their season goes through November, but.
No, I don't think it goes that far, especially these last few years.
Well,
I digress, but my
we had some good teams this year, and pep band is a required contribution.
No, I'm talking about for the football team.
Yeah.
I'm joking. But I guess what I'm saying is I also recall, as a board member, the last handful of years, we've had athletes in unaffiliated D86 programs who got PE exemptions, for example. I specifically remember a student who was on the rowing team, and she got an exemption, which would give her options that these band kids aren't getting equally. So I couldn't agree more.
So there are principals exemptions, and in general at Central we found last year that there's not a lot of them, but itself there was. So.
Am I referencing a principal's exemption then?
I think so.
Oh, not anymore, but.
Thank you, Superintendent Lott. But there was. So we just need to, I think that changing the language in the policy makes clear it's a 1-semester thing, and then also would give administration the opportunity to kind of clean it up.
So that's not what I heard from Member Waters. Are you, right? I heard Member Waters say, this is a reversion to the press language, and then we need to go back and figure out how to operationalize it. It didn't say the exemption is for a semester or for a year or for a career.
The language says that, though, in the footnote.
It says it's a common, the footnote uses the phrase common sense, like, it is, if we will create an administrative procedure based on how the board directs us vis-a-vis policy, I would encourage the board to be as clear as they want to be in the policy they choose.
The policy that we're approving.
Yeah, approving now or whenever.
I would support letting Dr. Locke and the administrative team make the decision on what's best here. They'll know best about staffing and structuring students' days, et cetera. And I do think we need to have a holistic evaluation of music as a whole moving forward. And I'm hesitant to give additional changes to class structure, et cetera, given where we are in the year and given that it may throw a wrench in things that are already in process. So I would like to.
We can't make these changes for the fall. Right?
Not for the fall, but we can suggest the changes. So the changes would be for 26-27 school year. So I'm in favor of directing administration to implement a the first semester PE exemption for marching band students beginning in the 26-27 school year. So that's not this fall, but it's the next fall.
I agree, but additionally, we're also talking about this policy provision language. And in addition to agreeing regarding what you said about the exemption for the fall of 6-7, I'm also in favor of striking these 3 words.
Right, so we will do a roll call on that, but Mike is asking for direction from the board and what the policy means.
Well, at the last meeting, we discussed it. I was in favor of the consideration for a full year, so I'm certainly happy to get behind this one semester.
So for me, the question is, does operationalizing this change mean in an administrative procedure or in better policy?
It's both, right? So we're taking the during football season out of policy.
Yeah.
And we're asking the superintendent to operationalize based upon the board's
Through an
disposition.
administrative procedure.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's exactly my understanding. So I think, Liz, what you're saying, although I understand, but I'm not sure, you're saying that Dr. Locke's role is to operation, you're saying let the administration do it, but they have to have approval of policy. They can't just do any, like, there has to be some sort of approval before. Which is not what I heard you say, though. I heard you say let the administration figure that out.
I would like there to be more of a deep dive on what's needed and not make any changes at all until there's clarity on what's needed. I mean, where I'm sitting is, especially if this is for the 6-7 school year, I don't see that there's haste to say we're making this change right now, and tonight we're saying that music exception, this is how we're operationalizing it going forward. I think I like the idea of saying that we can change the policy language, but I am more interested in getting more information before saying that the semester piece continues. I'd really like to know more about Dr. Locke's take on this going forward.
So I'm still in favor of just directing a one semester, so there is some framework instead of just all loose. And then if there's an issue, Dr. Locke, you'll bring it back, correct? The
Yes.
policy is changed and it doesn't outline a semester, but the board could provide direction to have them look at
We
it
hear
for a semester.
we hear your direction, we'll go figure out how best to operationalize it as however the policy is written. And we hear you on the semester, we'll figure out how to make that work. And as I said before, we've got big reservations about all of that. I don't think it's in the best interest of kids, but we'll figure it out.
Great, thank you.
Mayor, you have anything to say?
Yeah,
I guess I'm curious about what the burden on administration burden on you would be to, if we strike language. Because it sounds to me like your concern is that it's not the time to do it, like there's other. Okay. So, yeah, if I could get a sense of what that is.
sorry. you know, I've heard people who say we need more music course offerings, or we need more, we need different kinds of course offerings. I talked to a few parents a couple months ago who said our kids want to do music, but they want to do DJing and electronic music, and why don't we have more opportunities there? Like, I have heard parents who say we need to focus more on our most elite musicians, and we should be aspiring for Grammy trophies. And I've had others say that music is a great course, music education is so important, more people should be part of it. And I'm not sure if there's more enrollment in music, what other elective is decreased and all. So there's all those sorts of things I would like to figure out. I don't know how to describe what a great music program is yet. Is that one that has large enrollment? Is that one that has Grammy Awards? Is that one that is a big marching band? I think there's lots of ways to think about it, and we haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I guess from my perspective, the policy as written doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think striking it is kind of an easy win. You know, I was a band kid. I can't imagine, you know, doing PE for some number of weeks, jumping in and out. You know, I think it's an easy win, and I don't see how it works. And it sounds like from a staffing standpoint that could be an issue as well. Just my perspective, I'm leaning toward a semester exemption right now. But I think striking the language is pretty straightforward.
So I think that we have agreement that we have a motion on the floor for striking during football season. So let's move past that, okay? So Deb, will you please call the roll?
Member Fisher.
Aye.
Member Mitha.
Aye.
Member Akros.
Aye.
Member Leacock.
Aye.
Member Satchwell. Aye. Member Waters.
Aye.
Member Greenspan.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Moving on to administration reports, financial reports, April 2025. CFO and Board Treasurer Josh Stevenson has submitted the financial reports, including a financial summary report, the Treasurer's report, the student activity report, and the overtime report. Are there any questions for Josh? Okay, FOIA report, May 2025. In accordance with policy 2:250, access to district public records and policy 2:250 AP1, administration has provided the board with a report of the FOIA request process since the board's last regular action meeting. Are there any questions for FOIA Officer Kudrowski regarding the 19 requests detailed in the report? Okay, moving forward, FOIA and the Local Records Act, summer 2025. Administration prepared an overview of the district's records retention and disposal processes impacting FOIA. Does the board wish to provide any direction on the district's records retention and disposal processes?
I would like to hop in here. I think just given that we have had a lot of conversations and concerns in the community about FOIAs over the last several months, that it would be wise for us to put a pause on just disposing any records and really get super clear as a board about what the cadence is of disposing of records, what the FOIA policy is, et cetera. I feel like this is a great opportunity for us to advocate for transparency and share that with the community, and want to make sure that we are being thoughtful about moving this forward so that the community understands and that we really understand what's going on moving forward.
Okay, so Deb, can you explain what this is? This is just, go ahead.
This is actually not FOIA policy, this is records policy. Going on in the background, the district is collecting and maintaining records for a variety of purposes, for students, for business, for FOIA, a variety of things. And there's certain timelines recommended by the state for maintaining those records. And once you have reached the end of that timeline for maintenance of those records, you have the opportunity to apply for and dispose of those records. Board of Education records do not have a disposal period, other than verbatim closed session recordings, which can be after 18 to 24 months recommended for disposal. A side note, we have not really done that here. So this is actually related to the state's guidance and records around policy around records disposal, not the Freedom of Information Act. Because of the community's interest in that, that's why I prepared this report and put it in front of the board. Regularly, as we were communicating about the archive of the FOIA log, and as you can see from the historical information that is there, we have followed our Local Records Act disposal schedule, which says that we will maintain 10 years of FOIA records, including requests and responses. But beyond that time frame, so June of 2015 and earlier, we have the option to request and dispose of them. And you'll see that we have over the years done that.
I think my concern is it's not a question of whether we're following the law or recommendations, but perception of the community matters a lot, and I think this is an opportunity for us to just pause and say that we're gonna hold on to these until we get clearer on record retention. I feel pretty fuzzy personally on a lot of these things regarding records, and just given feedback I've received from the community too, would just advocate that we hold on to it and put a pin in it for right now, because unless, I don't know if things are hyper expensive to maintain on Google or anything like that, wherever these documents are living. If that's a concern, then I think that's a different question, but I would advocate just putting a pin in it for right now.
I might be a little lost on this one, but I thought these were student records.
Actually, the records disposal process, and Josh, you can jump in if you want, if I'm getting anything wrong here, because this actually happens in his department. It covers all of those things. It covers, I think there are up to like 140 different categories of records that appear on the sample disposal certificate, and we receive guidance from the state about the timeline that we establish for maintenance of our records, and then follow a regular disposal process. So student records are part of it, and I feel like in my time while I was here, we did our first disposal of records from Hinsdale South, because it's a really, really, really long time that you keep student records. But you'll see we have disposed of FOIA records at least 3, maybe 4 times in the detail that I provided in that report for you. It just so happens that now it's crossing, there's an intersection between on the FOIA log and these records. And that's where I think the feelings about transparency and maintaining the records are crossing.
5 banker boxes aren't the burden, it's what's on Google Drive records and the Gov QA portal, I imagine.
I would say the burden is liability for maintaining records that you don't have to. But I'm not gonna advocate or argue either way. My entire job is transparency, and I'm happy to do whatever you'd like me to do.
Deb, can you clarify something I always forget? The state of Illinois requires a FOIA log, but it doesn't require a portal, which we have. Is that right? What am I confused?
That's correct. Yes. We use the portal to manage response to our requests, but also to provide the community access to view other requesters' responses, following our guidelines outlined in our FOIA administrative procedure and our FOIA policy.
And that's on the portal?
Yes.
Which is not required by state law?
It is not.
Can you remind me, there's a few agencies and other school bodies / perhaps ISB that don't have FOIA boards?
A number
Remember
of.
that conversation in 6 months
Yes,
ago?
yes, I do. A number of agencies use a portal but do not publish their responses on what is a FOIA log, or reduced or changed their practices around that. Many of the portals don't allow you to edit the requester's input, and with some of the agencies, the requests they were receiving included private and personal information, and if you can't edit their request to remove that information, then you are creating a liability by posting it on your blog. I think we talked about the Attorney General's office and some others that participate in FOIA but don't maintain a public FOIA log.
I understand that this is an actual report, this is not an action item, this is a report.
Yes.
So, you said you'll take whatever direction, but it's a report, so what are we, I'm a little
So,
lost.
I think Deb, in an effort to inform the community and the board, is letting us know this is the normal cadence for this application to be submitted to, who does this go to? The application? Yeah, the Secretary of State.
Yeah, so we can't say we're not doing this, I'm a little, is that what you're saying, Liz?
So,
Is that what you're saying? You suggested not to do it, and I'm just a little about like, it's a report that is
right.
filed.
So Liz is suggesting that the application not be filed and put a pin in it. The other 6 board members can also weigh in. This is a normal cadence. This comes out of Josh's office. Deb is letting us know. I'm comfortable with the application being submitted. Mary?
Yes, I think your point about liability around retaining records that we perhaps should not be keeping is pertinent here, so I'm okay with moving forward with destruction of records.
Jeff?
No, I'm more than comfortable, and I just wanted to take some time to thank you, Deb Kudrowski, for your uber commitment to excellence as it relates to transparency. And I would encourage you perhaps to reach out to some of those agencies that fail to deliver the type of transparency that you do to our district, that Illinois State Board of Education doesn't, the Attorney General's office doesn't, and as we discussed at a prior meeting publicly, other school districts don't. So again, thank you. And this is not a new, renewed commitment to transparency from Deb Kudrowski, so thanks again, I really, really appreciate it.
Asma?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Bob?
Yeah, I certainly agree. I do worry about, I want to be transparent. On the other hand, 19 FOIA requests is a lot of effort that the district is spending. And I worry that sometimes we talk about the community, and it is really a very small number of people in the community who are driving an enormous expense. We do much more than peer districts, and it feels like we're spending too much money on this particular topic that should be going to our students, and we're confusing a small number of people in the community for the community that wants us to spend money on students.
And time.
Liz, are you still with a pin in it?
I'm still with a pin in it, and I think just simply because I could be wrong, but I don't see this being something that has to happen right now, and I do find it an opportunity to push transparency for all of us, and I do think as we're serving students, advocating for transparency in certain ways and having people understand the process more is that's good for kids, in my view.
Baron?
I guess my question is, what would be the substantive value of changing the regular cadence?
I would like to have, and this was not something I had intended on discussing this early in my tenure at the board, I would like to have a bigger conversation about FOIAs in general and how we can utilize this as a tool to build relationships with the community. I think historically, especially over the last year or two, from my observations, it has contributed mightily to breakdowns in relationships. And I think that we can actually use FOIAs to our advantage to help share information and bridge challenges that we're facing among us.
So maybe that could be a future agenda
Yep.
item request? Okay, so we have 6 board members that are comfortable with you and Josh moving forward with the application process as per normal cadence. Okay?
We will do that.
So you have the direction.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks again, Deb.
Moving forward, board president's report. I'd like to take a moment to sincerely thank the many community partners, staff, and board members who joined us for the Transition Center Community Partner Breakfast last week. Your ongoing support and commitment to our students means so much, and we are truly grateful for the vital role you play in helping our Transition Center students prepare for life beyond school. We're also always looking to expand these partnerships. So if you or someone you know is interested in getting involved, we would love to connect. Please call Carrie Smith. I would also like to extend our deepest gratitude to this year's retirees. Your dedication, passion, and years of service have made a lasting impact on our students, staff, and community, our district. We thank you for your incredible contributions and wish you all the best in your new and exciting chapter ahead. You leave behind a proud legacy and will be greatly missed. Finally, to our students, our graduates, our ceremonies at Hinsdale South, Hinsdale Central, and the Transition Center were filled with joy, pride, and celebration. Our ceremonies centered around our students, their voices, their successes, the challenges our students overcame. I extend a heartfelt congratulations to all of our graduates and wish them the very best as they embark on their next chapter of their lives. For 9th through 11th grade students, congratulations on completing your coursework, finals, AP tests, and this school year. Your inquisitiveness, grit, and determination is what will lead you in the years to come. And to our entire school community, thank you for an incredible year. Have a wonderful, well-deserved summer. Moving on to future agenda item requests. Liz, is the FOIA discussion?
Yes, that sounds great. I'd like to discuss FOIAs in the future.
I also do want to, so I had brought to the board in April about talking about the music program and getting an overview and how we can, so that has already been brought. I also would like to suggest, based on some of the conversations we heard about foreign exchange students, this is something where personally, my own family, we had 2 foreign exchange students who actually went to Hinsdale South, and it was such a great experience. I would really appreciate Farron maybe bringing that back into the policy conversation and looking into that policy again from what we heard from a couple of community members regarding foreign exchange students, because that is a bit disheartening that if we are creating extra burdens for families to bring in. I would hate for that to be the case. I would love for us to allow opportunities. And like I said, I know about 10, 15 years ago, my family hosted 2 different exchange students at Hinsdale South, proudly. Until this day, about 15 years later, still in contact with them, and they have great memories at Hinsdale South.
So your future agenda item with regards to
foreign exchange students
is actually a request of Policy Chair Leacock to discuss it and a future policy committee, and then bring it back to the board.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, for sure.
Second that.
Yeah. Are there any other future agenda item requests?
Yes, just something we have done, I think, not too long ago in the past, Josh, with stipends. We've obviously approved the stipends tonight in recent past, but I think the full board should have a discussion and an observation of some data of stipends over time. And also some of the language that might generate administration's consideration for stipends. I'm referencing, obviously, headcount and tallies, but also, is it also based on projected, and how often do projecteds turn into actuals? But I think that should be at some point, perhaps to start at finance, but to make its way to forward. Stipends.
Okay, did you get that, Deb? Okay, are there any other future agenda item requests? Okay, moving on to board comments. We have set aside a time on the agenda for board comments. This section of the agenda is not for board deliberation. It may be used by board members to offer their comments for the record? Are there members of the board who wish to offer comments?
I'd like to. So I wanted to share out that as a new member of this board, I've had the opportunity to review closed session minutes. I've been a dedicated volunteer in this community for most of the last 26 years. And I'm happy to report that the closed sessions that I reviewed showed exactly what I want to see from volunteers who serve this community. Board members demonstrated a consistent commitment to careful, deliberate, caring, and professional discussions in all of the recordings that I reviewed. They prioritized our students. More specifically, I heard comments from all 9 board members who served this district from 2023 to 2025 that showed that they were making good faith decisions based on discussing options and applying sound reasoning. They're dedicated public servants. They have my gratitude. While I understand that some in the community would like greater transparency around these meeting topics, I've come to understand the necessary reasons for certain confidentiality practices. The board follows established guidelines on disclosure and has diligently adhered to sound counsel on these matters. This experience has deepened my appreciation for the board's work and strengthened my enthusiasm for serving alongside my fellow board members. I'm honored to be a part of this 7-person team, and I look forward to contributing to the continued success of our district and focusing the public conversation on our students.
Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind making a couple comments. First of all, as a new board member, I just want to say that the experience so far has been fantastic, and I'm incredibly impressed with my fellow colleagues, old and new. And since becoming a board member and having more, access to behind the scenes, I feel even more strongly and feel even more confident in all the people that I'm working with, and it's really great to see. And not just the board, but also so far working with administration, Mike Locke, leaders in our buildings, facilities, teachers that I've talked to, and of course our kids, who are absolutely fantastic. I got to hand out diplomas at Hinsdale South, where the last time I was there was almost 30 years ago, and I was receiving one. I was wearing gold, not black, which the black's a little bit more stylish. I liked it. Man, that was so amazing because every single kid that I gave a diploma to looked me in the eye and said thank you. So that's probably like hundreds of kids, and that it's a little thing, but that gives me chills. There's really good kids, and there's a lot that goes into that kind of result from the community, their parents, the district, and everything. And so that was really great to see. So I just wanted to say that. The other thing I wanted to say is, as a board member, a lot of folks have a lot of great ideas, suggestions, and that's one of the benefits of being in a district like this. I mean, it's really an incredible district. We need to be very grateful for it every day. For me, I think to kind of bend my ear and to win my heart or mind, the best way to do that is always going to be painting a positive vision for how a policy or an action will move the needle for the kids in our classrooms. A positive vision for the future of how a policy or an action will move the needle for the kids in our classrooms. What I find for me personally is, I guess the contrast to that would be more of a negative approach, vitriol, personal attacks, things like that. It triggers my skepticism, it triggers my legal training, and it creates an additional layer to try to, to win that persuasion. So additionally, we have a bit of a crisis in public discourse in our society, nationally, internationally, locally. And, I, for one, am just somebody who responds and much better persuaded by, like I said, painting a positive vision for how we can move the needle for kids in our classrooms. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay.
I'm sorry. I wanted to add on a little bit. Obviously, we talked tonight about FOIAs, and we're talking about transparency, and I won't beat a dead horse with Deb Kudrowski again and thank her, but I want to thank the 7 members I'm sitting with, and specifically also the departed ones who just left, for Board Member Walker and James, Kartsunis and Rahman. All 11 of those members and the 7 here, we have an expectation and we are charged with committing to transparency. And as newly elected officials, Bobby and Barron, I certainly appreciate your input as it relates to transparency that you may have seen with some of you said behind the scenes, and you mentioned some closed session recordings. Any elected official who fails to champion and execute on their own behalf to confirm that transparency is failing not only themselves and lacking in integrity, but they're also failing the community that voted for or against them. So if anyone on this board ever senses a lack of transparency, I'll be interested to see that, because I get to witness it in my service. Claims to the counter, I would vehemently reject any claims of failed transparency. Everyone campaigns on a platform of transparency. I did it in 21. Each of these members sitting here had the same platform, and that doesn't make us unique, nor does it make us special. It's an obligation to the role, and it's an obligation to the community. And so I appreciate what you guys said, and obviously if anyone thinks differently, please share. But this board has been nothing but collaborative, cohesive, and collegial. That includes the 4 recently departed board members. And to put it very simply and to be brief, no pun intended, this board, including the last 4 departed, has been nothing above it, meaning above board. So thank you guys for your comments. I appreciate the transparency.
Is there anybody else? Okay. Moving on to audience comments. This board will now hear additional public comments. Comments will follow our board protocols and board policy 2:230. Anyone who is interested in addressing the board may step forward. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Will the first speaker please step forward and identify yourself before speaking?
Just a quick statement before our audience comments, if you don't mind, President, respond.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everybody's passion in the community that they have for audience comments. I would just ask to consider refraining from any profanity during comments. Please consider that, not only for our audience here, but for our audience at home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I strongly support all the statements of support for the board. I heard a fantastic idea tonight that may have been around before, but I just didn't know about it, and I'm really happy to. That is the summer pre-8th grade reading and algebra orientation. And I love it that it's tuition free, and there should also be food, of course. The food insecurity is bound to get much, much worse, tragically, and the district will have to step up. And this is such a great idea. Is it being well publicized? If someone would send me a link, I would send out an email and also post it without any surrounding polemic. You know, just a PSA. It's such a great idea. But I was also a little disappointed in the discussion of music. I'm glad the football season language was removed. It should at minimum be a semester, but we don't need a prolonged analysis or study to see that the music program is in crisis because of the logistical problem that kids are having with taking music. And at least a chance to take a semester course would greatly facilitate enrollment in marching band. There's a reason why state law allows the PE exemption for marching band. It's very physical, and actually the activity goes on year-round. We heard from so many eloquent students and families of kids from in AP classes, kids with special needs, kids with emotional issues, and everyone in between gave testimonials to what Grace Aducey in particular was doing for them in a positive way. By not taking action for this fall, we may lose Grace Aducey. We don't need a year of study to see that that would be a terrible thing. And the decline in music enrollment is a crisis right now. To allow it to fester for another year, in my opinion, is not optimal, but we've taken a great step in the right direction by removing the phrase on football season. And again, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Thank you all again. You guys gave me a lot of hope. Tonight was a great meeting with really good discussion. I want to go back to the marching band PE exemption. I'm very thrilled that it's a single semester on the table, but I think we really need to rethink this. I don't think it's fair to say that kids have other places in this building where they belong. My two kids, the one place they belonged in this building was band. And without their PE exemption, they would have been forced to give up band. So what I'm proposing to you guys is that instead of saying marching band PE exemption gives you another course, think about it as providing kids the opportunity to do what they love, which is to make music. My kids are both working musicians. It meant so much to them. Both kids wore Fitbits on marching days. It was like a 2 miles in their 50-minute PE class. I mean, we really we're limiting kids. And when I talked to Lindsay, she said, who gets to decide for us what we value? You know, she says, who says art isn't more valuable than PE? We're physically active. I mean, my daughter's stamina is probably better than most athletes. She's an opera singer. That's something she got from being a musician and from the program that we have here in this building. And so it breaks my heart that anybody would think that we're asking kids to give something up that they love, that's okay, that it's about trade-offs. It shouldn't be about trade-offs. We shouldn't ask kids to give up what they love. And so I hope, Dr. Locke, that you'll take the time to sit down with some of us who have music kids and sit down with some of the music kids, because that sense of belonging, it is everything. If you go into a band room, you'll see all the kids that go there to eat lunch. It's their community, it's their family, it's their support system. And a lot of those kids don't feel comfortable in a PE class. It just isn't their thing. They don't have the structure and the commitment that our musicians have. So please, please, please reconsider this, because there's so much to gain from great music. And great music comes from great school music programs. Thank you. Oh.
Kara Crow, wanted to quickly apologize. I was speaking from the heart. I didn't have written notes. Apologize to the gentleman in the back that I said a few words that you didn't approve of. was not my intention. Because I almost have, what is the expression, PTSD, from literally having to go to federal court to be a plaintiff against my children's high school. That didn't make me feel like a happy person, but I feel it's right to speak up when something is wrong. And when the previous superintendent directed Deb Kudrowski, who was all about, you're giving her a million applause, she had no problem coming over and snatching a microphone from a very well-respected doctor in the community. When the microphone had been removed, I then had to stand there and request it to come back. So when I'm sitting here and getting passionate about my First Amendment rights, I'm sorry, Baron, if I offended you and that you maybe don't like me now because I didn't come up and schmooze you to make you understand the frustration I feel. My friend Debbie Leventhal and her children and her husband have been drugged through the ringer. All of you sit up here and go, oh, it's all about the kids, it's all about the kids. What about her 3 children? If it was your child, how would you feel? And Baron, you have children. I've seen your Facebook posts. They're gonna get here someday. Would you like that to happen to your children? Would you like that to happen to your wife? Would you like that to happen to you? This is something that this board, and I'm sorry, I really think that Catherine Greenspan, if I'm gonna apologize for my 2 words that were not appropriate, you should think about the way your facial expressions are, your body language. You are sitting next to a superintendent who has a heck of a lot more experience than you do, and you are just rude. You're rude, your body language, the way you're pointing, like, let me just tell you that 6 people already agree with what I want to say. You're not even letting this man who you're paying, not you, everyone in this community is paying to do his job as the superintendent. He's running the school. You are not. And you are being extremely rude with your mannerisms, your facial expressions, and you're bluntly just cutting him off. So I would like to point out, however angry and upset I am sitting here for my 3 minutes, which I only have 20 seconds left, it's a wake-up call. And Jeff, I'm tired of you being a cheerleader for everything. And then you get up on the other side and you go, oh, let me speak as a community member. You're a board member. Start acting like one in front of the community. Don't think you can jump back to this seat and then be a cheerleader for what you want, okay? It's not dignified. For the new members, I truly hope that you don't just look at somebody who wants to increase transparency with a FOIA request and then demean them, that they've asked for information. If you were transparent in the first place, they wouldn't have to be asking through a FOIA request. So Bobby, if you're upset that there's a small fraction of people who are here demanding information through FOIA, think about it. If that information was out there and it wasn't hidden and you've removed it from some log, maybe we wouldn't be having to file it. And Deb maybe wouldn't have a job. She should be happy to have a job, but maybe she shouldn't complain about what she has to do. That's her job, being a FOIA person. So I know I've gone over. I hope this is the last time I ever have to sit here again. Please do better for the Leventhal children and every other child in this district. Yvonne Mayer. Thank you, Ms. Quo, for your statement. I couldn't have said it better myself. The Leventhals have 3 children. Their privacy rights were violated. None of you want to even acknowledge that. Instead, with your innuendos, your public statements, you're casting them as liars. They're not liars. We believe them. And when I say we, it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 community members, Mr. Fisher. There's a whole slew of people who see this board for what it is. And you all should take heed, because what you did to their family, unacceptable. And you maybe got away with it, and you maybe ended up paying them $80,000. That's $80,000 that could have funded a teacher in this district. It could have funded 2 or 3 foreign exchange students in this district. But instead, I'm not even going to say the word, I feel like it, you screwed this family, you violated privacy, you drove one board member away because she had to make a choice between her family and being a board member. There's no law that board members give up their parental rights or their students' rights to privacy. There's no law. And it's really sad that some of the new board members, like Baron Leacock, who has 3 young children, won't even look at me when I'm making this public comment. I guess I'm not doing a happy dance and being schmoozy to you, just like you suggested you'd like us to be. No, this is serious business. Families matter. All families, all children. All 3 of the Leventhal children. Dr. Leventhal, the children's father. Debbie Leventhal, the children's mother. You guys all forgot about that on the prior board. It's a shame. Shame on all of you.
Warren Ollie. I'll apologize if you've heard this story before. From Alice in Wonderland. So Alice on a path walking in Wonderland came to a fork in the road where the path diverged into 2 different directions. Above her in a tree, the Cheshire Cat appeared. Alice asked, "Which path should I take?" The cat responded, "Where do you want to go?" He said, "It doesn't really matter where I go. That it doesn't matter what path you take." He had 3 discussions tonight. One was on combining finance and facilities. The other talked about your meetings. Also talked about FOIA. You haven't set a direction as to where you want to go. There's no strategic plan, no facilities master plan that I'm aware of. I sat in 9 facilities meetings this school year. Haven't seen one. Majority of the 60 meetings I've sat, almost all of the activity in those 60 meetings I've sat in this school year, has been tactical and transactional, not strategic. So if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter what you decide, how often you meet, or whether you combine a committee. You need a master plan for facilities. How are you going to develop that? By combining 2 committees. How are you going to make sure and ensure the safety around those facilities? You've got 5 buildings. Do you need all 5? South has room. You've got a transition center in Darien. Do you need that building? You've got a district administration center that's dated and doesn't help you attract and retain talent. And you know there's been retention issues. Do you have a goal around retention? Do you have a goal around driving out the issues with pedestrian and cars around the 2 schools each morning and each afternoon? Where are you trying to take this district? What are you trying to do? Form follows function. You got to figure that out. It's too transactional. It's too tactical. So you got to figure out where you want to take this thing. Dr. Locke has talked about goals, passion, trust, and organization. But I'm not seeing anything that's given any legs to any of that. When are you going to establish those goals? We're going to make sure you understand where you're trying to take this organization for the good of everyone. I've got 2 kids in this school. I want them to succeed. I want this board to succeed. So when I talked about doing something different, not just different because, if you keep doing the same thing expecting a different outcome, what are you? You know what you are. Insane. That's the definition. Trying to expect a different outcome by doing the same thing. It's not going to work. You can talk about doing less of the same thing. That's certainly not going to work. So you need to spend some time talking strategy. You've got all kinds of districts you can benchmark against. You got to figure this out. Stop just doing what is right in front of you. Set and be bold in your goals and drive this district to performance that we all deserve, that we all know we're capable of. That's what I think each one of us want. It's not personal. I've said in so many of these meetings, I don't bring any personal things here. I don't have any bone to pick. But I do want this district to be fantastic. And it can be. But you have to choose to be and make things happen. And we're all here to support you. We are. We want this to be great. And it can be.
Okay. Anybody else? No? I'd like to amend the agenda for a quick update. Is the board agreeable? I'd like to provide some information with regards to some of the facility stuff that was just mentioned. It's on the website under future facilities. There's a master facilities plan with a historical summary. So that plan is there. The normal cadence for the superintendent goal setting is in August. It's per the contract, per his contract. So I just want to make sure everybody has all the information. Okay? May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session for discussion under 5 ILCS 122C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. 5 ILCS 122C10, the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters related to individual students. In 5 ILCS 122C11, litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion Akris, do I have a second?
Second, Fisher.
Second, Fisher. Is there any discussion? Please call roll.
Member Greenspan.
Aye.
Member Fisher.
Aye.
Member Mitha. Aye. Member Akris.
Aye.
Member Leacutt.
Aye.
Member Sensual.
Aye.
Member Waters.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The board will now adjourn to closed session. The board will not take action following closed session. Thank you.